She's hurt. She's hurt. Holly looking to finish. Holly Holm is the new UFC Bantamweight Champion.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC Fight Night between Holly Holm and Ketlen Vieira. We're going to be talking two plays. Of course, we'll be talking the main event as well, and excited to break this one down. Now, I know a lot of people, hey, it's not this high-level card, or people bash cards that aren't this high-level, or pay-per-view, or whatever it may be. The best part about UFC is it's almost every weekend. We got to look to place our money in strong positions, and I do believe we found some more spots here to cash in. But we're coming off a 2-2 last weekend. Another profitable evening. Did hit on our top play, which was Michael Johnson, minus 135. Cashed it in KO fashion. Great seeing him coming back out there and getting the job done. Our other play was the Katelyn via decision, plus 115. Nice way to cash in there. Did miss on two smaller plays there, but we ended up cashing in again for clients. And then as well as our free plays, both hit. Ryan Sman, plus 185, as well as Jan Blachowicz, plus 160. So great weekend last weekend, but that's behind us. It's time to dive in to this card this weekend. Excited to break it down. And listen, before we get into this, like I always say, I always appreciate everybody who's liking, commenting, sharing, following, subscribing. All that stuff does help, so I do appreciate that as well. But this weekend, I do have two 4% best bet plays in one card. Normally, I don't do that, to be honest with you. Normally, I don't find these spots that I want to have two best bets or as much exposure on a certain card. Love these two spots here that we're going to be looking at this weekend. So if you want to become a client, link that in the description. Take a look. Hey, that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to have more plays in that package, and one of the plays is going to be the main event of the evening. We're going to be breaking that down. It is not going to be one of the 4% best bet plays. It's going to be a 2% play that I do have for clients. Already sent it out to clients already, but we're going to talk about it on the show today. So let's get into it. I think we're ready to go. So we're going to talk Holly Holm versus Ketlen Vieira. We've got Holly Holm right now. She's minus 250. On the other side, we've got Ketlen Vieira. She's plus 205, somewhere around there. So, like we always do here, we're going to break down three fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is Holly Holm against Amanda Nunez. Now, this is a fight here where not much to break down here, but this is where Nunez fought Holly Holm. Big fight here, and really, I thought it was a very timid Holly Holm in this fight. I don't think that she was very comfortable there. I think that this was, I think she was kind of pulling back a little bit from the power and what Nunez has done. But it really was a quick fight there. Holly Holm landed some nice shots there, kept distance, kept moving around like she normally does in the pocket, firing, keeping on her bike, circling around. But boy, did Amanda Nunez land a massive shot. Head kick, dropped her. Fight over. Knockout victory in the first round for Amanda Nunez. Holly Holm takes that loss there. But a fight I do want to break down a little bit more is her fight against Raquel Pennington. Now, this is a fight here where it was kind of a interestingly weird fight, because this was one that everyone was talking about as, hey, this is going to be a great fight because it's going to be a stylistically a stand-up fight. It could be a brawl. It could be two strikers. And really all Holly Holm did was just hold Pennington up against the fence. Oddly enough, I think this was something that she just wasn't prepared for. I think that it really threw her off her game, and Holly still, stepped to the outside, got in close, pushed her up against the fence. Crowd was booing. Pretty much the entire fight took place up against the fence where Holly kind of had her there. At times, Pennington would kind of move and kind of seek some space a little bit, but Holly would cut distance, get in tight, hold her there. She won. It was very unimpressive. She did, hold her up against the fence, and Pennington, I think, just was not prepared for that. I think Pennington, we've seen, this resurgence of Pennington, who has looked phenomenal over her last few fights, but this was one here where I thought she really was kind of thrown off by what Holly did. Credit to Holly in kind of a different strategy, I guess I should say, but either way, she goes out there, not impressive victory, but does go out there and get the victory. She beats Raquel Pennington via decision. And then most recently, Holly Holm fought Irene Aldana. Now, this was one where, boy, did Holly look sharp. I mean, it went from Pennington, I thought she just looked very lackluster and, really a kind of a boring game plan, but again, a winning game plan. But she looked sharp here. I mean, Aldana, who, good striker, lanky, good rangy fighter, which, again, kind of presents, a spot where Holly is comfortable. She likes to be standing up, but she mixed it up extremely well over these 5 rounds. I mean, she working her combinations, utilizing that big volume that she has, circling a lot. That was something that Aldana just couldn't really get into the rhythm there, where she would try to set up or try to look to counter, and Holly just bang, 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 move, bang, 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 move, and then all of a sudden she would throw in a nice takedown, get top control, work from there. It was a dominating showing there, but really the movement really gave Aldana a ton of problems. She just was not comfortable at any point. She couldn't get into that rhythm. And, again, the way that Holly was disguising these takedowns, I thought was much better and much smoother than some of her other fights where she kind of just bulldozes forward and looked for the takedown. Here, I thought she threw a nice combination and then quickly level changed. Really great showing for her out there. She pretty much won every round. I think it was every round she won, but a dominating showing for her. She does go out there and get the decision victory over Irene Aldana. Now on the other side, we've got Ketlen Vieira. Vieira, again, plus 205. 3 fights ago, she fought Sijara Eubanks. And this was one here where you got Eubanks, who is this strong, built woman, and this was one where Katelyn looked to go for the takedown quickly. She wanted to go for the level changes, and early Eubanks was able to kind of throw her away, work at range, look to throw big shots. But I like the way that Katelyn was utilizing her jab a little bit. Now, her striking is a little bit more wild. It's not as technical as you would say someone like Holly is, but she utilized it pretty well to cut distance, get in tight, and she ended up getting Eubanks down a few times in that fight, staying on top control, working, and that's really going to be her game plan here. Now, a lot of the times, she's not one to have big volume, but she is more submission over position when she gets somebody down. She's looking for that finish. Not that she gets to that, she's this elite level grappler, but she's got those credentials and she's able to get it there. She's big, she's strong, she utilized it. And there was even a point where she got a good takedown on Eubanks and pretty much working, and oddly the ref very quickly got them standing. It would have been one of those rounds that could have been maybe even a 10-8, just what Katelyn was doing there. But Katelyn goes out there, gets a decision victory over Eubanks. And then 2 fights ago, she fought Yana Kunitskaya. Now, this is an interesting fight because this is one that she lost. This is a losing fight for Katelyn, but it's arguably, I would say, you could give it to Katelyn. And early in this first fight, in the first round, you did see Katelyn was looking for those takedowns, looking to get in tight, kind of walking her down, and this was a spot where she got the takedown. Although she got the takedown, Yana did have more landed strikes in that round, but the top position, hunting for submissions, working from the top control, that helped her, I think, win that first round. Going into the second round, Yana again, they're kind of grappling. Vieira looking for the takedown, and it wasn't like Yana got the takedown. It was almost like they stumbled over each other, and then Vieira ended up on the bottom, and Yana kept her there. And that's credit to Yana. I mean, Yana is that kind of fighter. She's going to be grinding. She's good with top control. She's good with heavy top control. She didn't do very much with it, but she can keep the top control, work there, and just stay there. And again, in women's MMA, that is massively important. Of course, top control in men's is obviously important too, but a lot of times, if you can get a woman down, it's hard for her to get up. It's again, unless you're this elite level grappler, it's kind of hard, especially if some of these, like Yana, has the ability to kind of just be comfortable. I wouldn't say lay and pray, but it's close to that in that second round. And then going to that third round, it was Ketlen Vieira. She took her down, she kept top control, worked her, and even in that third round, Katelyn was submission hunting. She was working some ground and pound, got to Yana's back, almost submitted her a few times in that third round. So I easily had it a 2-1 going back and rewatching it. But they did give it, judging is judging in MMA, and they did give it to Yana. Yana went out there and did get the victory. But again, it shows ability in there. It wasn't like she was washed by Yana. Yana took her down a bunch of times, kept control. Now it goes as a loss for Katelyn, but again, it still was a good showing for her against, Yana is not a slouch when it comes to division, so she goes out there and she does lose against Yana Kunitskaya. And then most recently, she fought Miesha Tate. This was a 5% best bet play for me here. I did have Ketlen Vieira as a 5%er, and this was one here, I think it was plus 105, plus 110 for Vieira. And this was one where Tate was out for years, came back and fought Myron Renault and, beat her, who was basically, I think she had lost 4 straight fights, was on a retirement fight. So people were kind of really excited about Miesha Tate return, but Katelyn looked, fairly good over her last few fights prior to this. And this was a fight here where early, it was tight, it was close. And the one thing here that you even rewatching it, you see, any time that Vieira threw, she was landing. And she just wasn't pressing it. The first 2 rounds were pretty close, and then Vieira started kind of taking control, going to the 5th round, a ton of damage. Into the 5th round, a lot more damage, just landing big shots, defending the takedowns. Even when Tate got one, I think she got one. I think 1 or 2 that she ended up kind of getting her to her knee or kind of taking her down. Vieira scrambles back up. She's very knowledgeable and has that grappling ability. But again, the damaging shots were really coming from Vieira. She goes out there, she does get the victory there, but you did hear even Dean Thomas, and even the way I looked at it was just Vieira gave her way too much respect. That it was almost like in spots early, like a glorified sparring match where Vieira kind of boom, 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 stay on the outside. There were spots where, again, Tate is very sloppy with her striking. She does have wrestling, but are very sloppy with her striking. But again, it was just kind of odd to see Vieira not really slam on the gas where she had Tate hurt at certain times there. But either way, she goes out there and beats Miesha Tate. All right, so with that being said, now we've got Holly Holm here. We know she's a former UFC champion, pretty much the highest level of kickboxing that you can get. Insane cardio, good volume, always out there, good movement, good footwork. That's kind of been her paths to victory. And then you're saying you've got Katelyn. She's, big physical girl, grappling credentials. She's strong. She can muscle opponents around. And she definitely has heavy hands, but not as technical as Holly Holm is. But the first thing here we got to talk about here, and let's talk about it right away, and it's the fact that Holly Holm is 40 years old. That is going to obviously be a question mark, all right? That's going to be a question mark, especially in women's MMA, somebody at 40. It's not that, Holly has had all this damage and MMA mileage and taken all these, beatings. That hasn't happened. Yeah, she's been knocked out, but nothing to the level of really saying, hey, this is hurting her. But at 40, that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Just, a little bit of a check there where you've got the youth really on Vieira's side where she's 30, big difference there. But you loop in the fact that Holly hasn't fought in 2 years. Now, that to me is a red flag for anybody. I almost don't care who it is or what division, men's, women's, whatever. The layoff is always a bad thing. And when you tie that together with an aging fighter, that's also not a great thing either. So those 2 things, I think, really don't mix well with the layoff and ring rust and aging. That is already kind of a question mark over there when you talk about just where Holly is in her career. But we talk stylistically, obviously on the feet, Holly is worlds apart from Vieira when you're talking about just the stand-up, the striking, the versatility, the movement, her combinations, her footwork. A lot of that is definitely going to be a lot better than Vieira when it comes to that. Without a doubt, she's always on her bike. And obviously the fact that Vieira is a slower moving fighter. She's not one to have good footwork. That is definitely an issue for her when you're talking about somebody like Holly, who's going to have the movement, who's going to have the volume and the cardio against her. But I think one of the things that really does help Katelyn is the fact this is taking place in the Apex. I think that is a very big part of this, and that's something that I think a lot of cappers, kind of sometimes don't fully put in there because movement is important. And somebody like Holly who loves movement, who loves to move around the cage, wants to have that kicking range, that's going to it's going to tighten out a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that that's an end-all be-all by any means, but that is definitely going to have a factor there, where you've got Holly, who wants to seek space, who wants to utilize her kicking game, who wants to move around freely, work kicks and then move, work kicks and move, and she is able to do that for 10 rounds if she wanted to, because her cardio is off the charts. So that, to me, is definitely something that is going to be an interesting part of this fight, as well as the fact that Katelyn is going to forward. She's going to move forward. She's going to have forward pressure. She's going to look to get in tight. She likes to brawl. She wants to clinch. She wants to get your hands on you. So there's going to be some spots where Katelyn's going to push forward and get Holly up against the fence. That's also where Katelyn could utilize some of her strengths. In looking for the takedowns. She's got some very tricky trips and ways to kind of get takedowns, which I think is going to help. And also, you want to smother the kicker. We've talked about this a lot in the show. Smothering the kicker. She's not going to be able to get her fire for kicks, getting in tight, closing that distance, as well as, Holly, who maybe backpedaling a little bit, as she's trying to seek space. It's going to be harder for her to fire kicks off her back foot. That also will help Vieira as well. And then you add in the power part of this. Now, Holly is known for the big knockout of Ronda Rousey, but we have not really seen this power from her. Volume's still there, cardio's still there, activity is still there, but the power's not there. And I think that's where somebody like Vieira definitely has more of the power, and is not going to be scared to get in close to try to take a few shots to get her hands on Holly looking for takedowns, because I think she's okay with it. I think she's going to be okay with the power coming back for her. Plus, again, the shorter cage, shorter distance to get her hands on Holly. That also is going to help her as well too. And then if we also talk about the takedown part of this, now obviously Vieira is going to look for the takedowns. She's going to be way better on the ground, in grappling situations than Holly is. But we've seen Holly where she's, has taken opponents down, and that's kind of been a little bit of a path. We've talked about it against Raquel Pennington. There's been some other fights too where she just kind of went for the takedowns and got them. Now you've got someone like Ketlen Vieira who has a 90% takedown defense rate. So I don't really believe that Holly is going to be able to get these takedowns. So in any clinching situation, which I believe there will be a lot of clinching, I think Vieira will have those advantages as well too here. So for me here, I like Ketlen Vieira plus 205. I think the price this is good. I think Holly at 40 years old, 2 years off in the smaller cage against a bruiser like Vieira. I like this spot here. It's going to be a climb play. It's going to be a 2% climb play here. I like it. And listen, I am I am trademarking the name Baby Nunez for Ketlen Vieira. We're taking Ketlen Vieira plus 205 against Holly Holm to get the victory. And my other free play is Felipe Kolaris versus Chase Hooper. We've got Felipe, he is minus 180. We've got Chase Hooper, he's plus 155. So let's break this down here. Now the first thing here is Chase Hooper. People love the guy. I mean, he's a likable guy. He's building this Twitter following. He's a nice guy. People like his story. He's young. He's 22 years old. Is definitely a fan favorite. But if you look over his last 3 fights, one thing is for sure, he hasn't looked good. He may look good on Twitter, but he is not looking that good when it comes to the last 3 fights that he had. Now, he went 1-2 over that span. The only win that he had was over Peter Barnett, which was really an ugly fight and really an ugly win. Peter Barnett right now is 1-3 in his last 4. He no longer is even in the UFC. He fights for Cage Titans. So he's beating a guy that really is below UFC standards. While Felipe, on the other side, he is fresh off a tough split decision against Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez, I put him actually as a guy really looking to kind of make waves in the division. Looks great, well-rounded, strong, just coming off a nice knockout win over Dana Bagarel. I mean, he's looked great. And you've got, Felipe, who fought him tough, who fought him very close. You could definitely argue, again, split decision was there, but you could definitely argue he should have won that fight. A very close fight either way, but it just shows that he's got ability. He's definitely a well-rounded guy, and the part of this also, I think, is the biggest part of this fight, is the only way that Chase Hooper wins this fight is by submission. I don't really see any other way that he goes out there and gets his victory. I don't think he kind of works from the outside and lands some shots or just keeps having these takedowns in top position and maybe not getting finished, but kind of keeping top control. I don't believe he's able to do that either there. I think somebody like Felipe, who is knowledgeable, can keep it standing, and even if he gets taken down, he's able to, I think, scramble and get his way back to his feet. But you look at Chase Hooper, he's lanky, he's able to get those submissions, but I just don't think that's going to work against Felipe. The other part of this is the fact that, on the feet, it's not even close. I mean, Felipe is not this elite level striker by any means, but against Chase Hooper, I think it isn't even close. I think that Chase Hooper pretty much uses striking to just close distance and then look for a takedown, to close distance and get his hands on you. And the part that's an issue about that is that Chase Hooper is very weak. I mean, the guy has limited strength. He's not able to really kind of muscle his way and grab his opponent and kind of, dictate the pace by kind of, shifting them up against the fence. He doesn't have that. It's going to have to be some kind of slip or fall or some way for Chase Hooper to get the takedown. He doesn't really have it. And if you add in the fact that his biggest weapon is going to be on the ground, he only has an 18% success rate on takedowns. So he doesn't really even have that path, is very limited, and unless Felipe takes him down, and then that's really where Chase Hooper works. That's, I think, the way that this happens. But I don't really see anything that Chase Hooper brings here. And I think anywhere that this fight goes, I think that Felipe takes advantage of it. I think that he works in a good spot. I think he continues to push volume out, land big shots. And if you're talking about Kolaris is minus 180 against Chase Hooper, I think this line should be wider. Again, I think it's a little bit of a little bit closer, just because, again, Felipe, maybe he's not looked at as this top level guy. And again, you've got somebody like Chase Hooper. People love him. People want to bet him. People want to cheer for him. But in this spot here, I am taking Felipe Kolaris minus 180. I think the price is good. I think that Chase Hooper's not very good at all. I think he's got a lot to fix. So I am taking Felipe Kolaris minus 180 as my other free play. So those are my two free plays for UFC Fight Night this Saturday night. If you want to take a look at my client plays, link down in the description. I've got two best bets that are there for clients right now. So go take a look if you want to. And hey, listen, we've cashed in 11 of 16 events in 2022. Let's make another one. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.